Somebody made a note of this on the recording because we're not identifying them. People speak in the audience, they don't know who's saying.
We'll make sure that. Okay. We're going to start right off with old business. And the first thing on the agenda is the petition to request a revote on Article 5 of the 2018 town warrant.
Just, you want me to?
Sure.
Yeah, as you recognize or realize, Ernie Rice had submitted a petition with 173 signatures requesting a revote. You have a copy of the language of the petition. You should have a copy of it, or if not. And at the meeting where that was discussed, the sense I got of the board at that time was to ask me to go and see if I could come up with some alternative language, because this language, as it was written, you could accept it or not. But there was a request to essentially have me look into it. So I provided you with a couple alternatives. When we had the budget meeting, you voted to move forward on the full funding of the library and discuss this this question at this meeting. So that's what the whole thing is about, where you're at on the request or the alternatives.
Ernie, have you had a, if I can just take Ernie for a minute, ask Ernie a question. Have you had a chance to look over these two?
I came in and talked with Denny on that. I just like to,
All right, go ahead.
like to establish something. I came before this board last year. My sign was taken down illegally by mistake, and it was down. And the vote was basically, if we'd have got 8 more votes, it would have failed. And I was opposed to what was proposed. So I came in and asked that the select board do a revote. They said, no, you will have to do a petition. So I did a petition based on the fact that it's Article 5. And you know, I want to give you a little history. We've had other petitions that come in, and the select board words it appropriately. It goes before the vote. It doesn't need to be worded exactly. As long as the intent of that position is for a revote, that's all that is required. And in the past, being on the board for 8 years, we've had legal checks. Some of our legal that will defend us in court said as long as it is not ambiguous, it's very clear what the intent is, and I was following the instructions of the selectmen. And you can write that any way that you see fit, and I would suggest that it basically be written the same way as it was before, the only difference being there should be a full 1 year dollar amount attached to that article, and then you would have a separate article if it didn't pass on the town floor to approve the 3 months that have already been paid. That's how we have done those things over the years. I'm just giving you some history and my understanding. In the petition, we did that, everybody understood very clearly it was a petition to do a revote. And we did that, and we talked. We want the vote to be, of course, in March town meeting, because that's when the budget.
Thank you. If I could, when you guys get up to speak, if you could state your name just for the recorder, that would help us tonight. Denny, did you have anything?
No, this is purely up to the board.
Kathy?
I'd like to make a motion that we reject a revote on Article 5.
I'll second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any more discussion on this? Go ahead. I'm going to vote against it. I'll tell you right now. Melanie?
Well, I think for me, one of the most compelling things came from Maine Municipal. It is under the Field versus Town of Harpswell 2018. If you go to that section, which is the 3rd page in from the back, it is not a highlighted section. But it does say, point number 161 of that court case stated, Maine law does not compel either a municipal board or a school board to schedule a revote upon petition by voters on an issue that has already been acted upon by the electorate. Under the Dunstan standard, the Harpswell Select Board's view that the fundamental question raised in the petition has already been decided by the voters was a reasonable one. So, I mean, that's where I'm coming from. I feel like the voters have already voted, and I feel like we're being, I don't know how to say it, not disingenuous, but by putting something forward, a competing article at the same time as the budget, I feel is unfair to the library, and I feel that it's unfair to the voters that already voted to allow this to go forward. I'm happy if we want to reconsider this for the 2020 budget, and then we're looking at something differently. It's the next page, and it just wasn't highlighted. But I feel like we're too late for it at this point for the 2019 budget, and I just feel like that's my point.
Okay, thank you. Mike?
I don't remember if it was Melanie. I don't remember if it was Dunstan, but at one point the case law said that you have standing to try to prevent a vote. You do not have standing to try to overturn a vote. And I believe that's the case here. Further, I think it's a very serious thing. It's an error to try to overturn a legal vote of the people. And for that reason, I think we should reject this petition. Those reasons, I should say.
Yep, go ahead.
Kathy Brown. So what you're saying is that from now on, if somebody submits a petition with the required number of votes, the select board can decide to ignore it. How do you choose between what petition you'll accept or deny? My understanding was that the petition is clear in its intent. It has to go on out for vote. Maybe that's totally wrong, but and if that was going to be the case, you folks didn't do your homework ahead of our last meeting with you regarding this, when you said you can do a petition to request a revote. That doesn't mean, but we'll deny it.
Thank you. Mike?
A couple of things. Number one, we're looking at this particular request tonight. We're not looking at things in the future. I don't know what the future will bring. We may reject them, we may accept them. Depends on the type of petition, what it's about. Personally, I can say I went into this thing thinking we were obliged to accept them. It was after that, after we got into this, that we started seeing decisions, court decisions, case laws, I say, that got me thinking that maybe we are able to reject it. I did always have thought that you have to be really, you have to have all your ducks in order to justify overturning a legal vote, and this was a legal vote. Despite the question of the sign, whether or not that had an effect, we can't know. It's not possible to know, but that's my position.
Kathy?
I have one more comment. So I think if you do that, you should contact the 177 people who voted to request a revote. Contact them personally and explain why you're doing that.
Yeah, thanks for your suggestion.
Thanks. Melanie?
Folks, when they sign a petition or when they sign something, they're not signing it saying that they agree with it. They're signing it saying that that they feel like it should be moved forward. It is not the position of the board to contact anyone who signed a petition ever. It's not our legal responsibility, and it's not going to become practice.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say,
Danny?
the information I got is relative to a revote, and when I went to talk to the Maine Municipal Association's attorney and showed him the petition, I said, I need to reword this some way so that to meet the intent and all that. He looked at it, saw the request was for a revote. He said, well, wait a minute, there's current case law, which was the 2018 decision that doesn't require you to push forward a revote. That's the only reason why I included that.
Anybody else got anything?
Call the question.
Seeing none, I'd call for the vote. All in favor?
All in favor of?
Rejecting.
Rejecting it. 4. All opposed? It's me. Here I am by myself again. That's okay.
But she's a liar, like, you don't know.
That's right. All right, the next thing on the agenda is the Board of Appeals draft ordinance. Kenny?
A while back, when we were looking into the Board of Appeals, we were trying to get positions and all that, I went through to try to establish how did the Board of Appeals actually get established? What's the legal basis of it? I talked to Becky Seal about that and all of that. Apparently it got established under some shoreline zoning laws that were passed back in the late 60s, early 70s, but we didn't have a clear kind of understanding of that. So then we moved forward and looking at what were the bylaws that they were operating under. The bylaws that they were operating under were written in 2004 by then Chair Bob Martin. And they were taken from the manual for the Board of Appeals. But I thought, well, wait a minute, we should probably reestablish that Board of Appeals. And I talked to Becky about that, and we talked about how to go forward with that. And she said the best way to go forward at that time, when she was the attorney within the mayor, and she said the best way to go forward probably is to have an ordinance, the Board of Appeals ordinance passed. So I talked to the then, well, I guess the current board members and said, would you take on the task of developing an ordinance that would reestablish you, provide for clear set of rules to operate under and all of that? They agreed to take on that task. I think I briefed the board at some point in time in the past. I can go back and look at the notes. But just to say that this was going on. And they did come up with this draft Board of Appeals ordinance. It was on the last agenda, but it's an actual ordinance was left out of your package by Eric. So I had it brought forward again on this agenda. What we need to do is move it forward so that if you want, we can put it on the referendum questions for the March town meeting. And I believe we have a couple members of the appeals board here. If you have any questions about it.
Maybe I missed it. I didn't see it in here.
It's right after the first one.
Oh, I did miss it.
Yours doesn't have a little tabby flags.
No.
Do you want-
No, I'm fine.
Would you like my tabby
Nope,
flags?
nope, I'm fine. Mike?
I just have one question, comment and question on alternate members. I don't have a problem with the idea of an alternate member, but it seems to me if you are an alternate member and there's a chance you're going to have to vote at some point on a hearing, you should attend that hearing. The old regulation said if you didn't attend, if you could certify that you had read the entire transcript, you could vote. It doesn't say anything like that here that I noticed. And I just think that should be addressed. Other than that, I have no problem. Well, and it's right, well, it's alternate, first place it's mentioned, alternate members, right on the appointments.
First page.
First page, and then this, what I'm referring to is sub B of number 4 on the second page, alternate member. They should attend the hearing, not participate necessarily.
Mike, go ahead.
Mike Hano, I think that's covered under the MMA rules. I'm not sure which ones they are. That's why we did have a discussion with the board to talk about alternates and so forth. And whether or not, if you're an alternate, you're supposed to be kept up to speed on all the hearings and everything that's going on. So I think that's why it was worded the way it was.
Do you think it would cause a problem if they were required to attend the hearings? Would it cause a problem?
What's that?
If you required an alternate to attend the hearings to know what's going on, would that cause a problem?
No, as long as they're kept up to speed as to what's going on, and that's our hope in the future. Whoever's an alternate would attend the meetings with us and be kept up to speed.
Well, you do say that the board members have to attend. You know, you get to miss 3 meetings and you're eligible to be kicked out. Why not say the alternates have to attend? Why not some similar type of requirement for the alternates? So that it's clear it's here, it's in our ordinance, and we don't have to refer to the MMA.
Go ahead, Jimmy.
This is Sam Hudspeth, also on the appeals board. Just so I'm clear, is your reference to the, accept the right to participate, I'm just having a hard time. Because we're just saying they would not participate in the hearing, we aren't saying they shouldn't attend the hearing.
Well, it doesn't say they should, they have to attend it either. All I'm suggesting is
I don't
that,
know that it references whether they should or shouldn't, it's just, I mean, they would be invited, alternates would be invited regardless.
all I'm saying is I feel it should say in here, they should attend, just as the regular members attend.
Denny?
If I understand the question, or the issue, I think what Mike is saying that if an alternate is to participate in a public hearing, they should have to attend that public hearing proceeding, or read the entire transcript before they vote on that, and certify to that. And what I'm reading under the alternate member, it says an alternate member shall have all the rights and privileges of regular members except the right to participate in hearings or decisions of the board unless designated by the chairman to serve in place of a regular member. So that, as I understand this, you would, if you were missing a member, you would designate an alternate to actually attend that hearing. That's what I'm understanding.
Not that big an issue, I guess.
Thank you. Melanie?
I don't know who's doing the proofreading, but I'm happy to hand over my copy where like Board of Appeals needs to be capitalized throughout, so there's continuity. Select Board is one word. Under general provisions, item C, I think after the Belgrade Comprehensive Plan, we want to put the date that was in effect, because, I mean, this is how we're gonna be moving forward, so who knows if 20 years, 30 years from now, we might have another comprehensive plan. So if we reference the one that's in existence now.
And you see the current.
Yeah, it was the current. So I'm happy to hand it over, I just kind of did little circles on stuff.
These are basically non-separate.
Yeah, just, and it's just capitalization, just things moving forward, so that it's.
Basically non-separate.
I think we can move it forward, but
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, we really haven't moved and seconded this yet, so we probably ought to do that before.
I'll move,
Motion.
I'll second it.
Yeah, screwed up again. Anyways, is there any more discussion on this? Seeing none, I guess I'd entertain a vote. All in favor of this? 5. Thank you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
The third thing under old business is the position of the tax collector being changed from Nick to Melanie Alexander.
Yes, as you know, the board appoints these positions. We're trying to rebalance the workload in the workplace, and Melanie's becoming much more familiar with her job as treasurer. Nick is being loaded up with other tasks. So we talked to both, I talked to both Nick and Melanie, and we feel that this is an appropriate move. Melanie has, of course, the experience and certification, and Nick is okay with it because it helps him get some other work done.
Okay, we need to move this one too.
This was on the last board
I'll
meeting,
move it.
and there were some questions.
I'll move to accept it.
Okay. Any more, Melanie?
So the questions that we had on the last meeting, and I want to make sure that we're clear on this, is that it is simply a change of title. There's not a change in pay,
That's right.
and there's not a change in the past it has been, I have 3 titles, and each title is entitled to blah, blah, blah. So this is strictly just a taking a title from one and giving it to another, but.
Exactly as I pointed out in the memo I sent to the board.
Thank you.
I just want to make sure we discussed it in the meeting.
Anybody else got anything?
I need a second.
Huh?
Did we second it?
I
Yeah, it's
second
been moved and seconded. So. Any more discussion on this? Seeing none, I'd entertain a vote. All in favor? 5. Thank you. Now we're gonna get into new business.
We have an
Abatement.
abatement.
Oh, wait a minute, yeah, the abatement, sorry. We have an abatement that we've got to do here. Do you wanna go over that, Denny?
Yeah, it's purely, as I understood it, in talking to Bob, our assessor today, it's purely, there was a computer entry error, and this is to correct that computer entry error.
I
Okay.
moved acceptance.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, all in favor?
I'd like to abstain.
Okay, 4 and 1 abstention. Thank you. Now I guess we can get into the new
Probably
business.
should have read what we were doing though, the whole thing for the meeting.
Yeah, probably should have, we didn't. Go ahead if you want to.
All right, this is referencing Sharon Jeffy, map 8, lot 13A-01, account number 8702RE. The Board of Assessors for the Town of Belgrade has issued an abatement to Sharon Jeffy in the amount of $153.30 of the real estate taxes for account number 3702RE.
Thank you.
Hold on a minute though. Did anyone else see this?
So this is an abatement to this account, but it references that account.
I'm assuming they're the same account, but there are two different
They didn't
account
put a 3 in there.
numbers. So is it the one with the 3 or the one without the 3?
Yep. Good catch. I didn't see that.
There's always something.
No, she's good. She's good.
The account number in the,
Well, we'll
correct it.
we'll make sure that it's,
Okay, thank you. Good catch.
Must
Yeah.
be the glasses.
Good girl.
Yeah, I got my glasses on, I still missed it.
There's an extra number in that one.
All right, now we're gonna get into the new business. And the first thing on A is a letter expressing concern about a donation of a Bible and 2 Christmas children books to the Town of Belgrade Library, Public Library, sent by Kathy Brown. You want to,
well, all I will say is this has a relatively long history to it. When I say long, it's greater than a month. It's around 3 months, I believe, or maybe 3.5 months. It's pretty, Kathy articulated her issue fairly clearly in her letter. Apparently, there was a donation that was proffered to the library. The concern initially was the length of time that the librarian took to get back. The librarian had an issue, a family issue that she was attending, and as I understood, there was some communication there in the interim before she actually got to the responding. The response to the initial donation was provided by the librarian in a letter that also attached some documents relative to back up her decision. I met with two people from, that was Mary and they explained their concern to me, and I said, geez, I don't see a problem, but I'll talk to the librarian to find out what's going on. I talked to the librarian, Janet explained her issue to me. There was some back and forth with Janet about that because I wanted to understand the issue of what the policies were and all of that. I had indicated to Janet I felt there was some flexibility there, but I'm not, hey. So then I requested the board to look into it and see what they thought about that issue, if there was some sentiment from the board that.
You mean the trustees?
The Board of Trustees of the library. And Diane, we had some communications, Diane looked into it, proffered her response to that. And I noticed here also that in her response, she commented on Kathy's letter. And then tonight I received, I think Diane's going to reference it, there's a letter from a local citizen who expressed her views about this issue. So you had the complete packet?
Do you have a copy of that?
Not yet, because I think.
sure, go ahead.
Just for clarification, Kathy was not the one who donated,
No.
was donating the books. It kind of sounds like she was. She
No,
wrote
no.
a letter, right?
No, Kathy was not, it was a
Okay.
local citizen, Mary Pond,
Yeah, right here.
Yep,
I have the books too, if you want to look at it.
so.
okay.
So that's the summary of the issue. At this point, the Board of Trustees, as you read in their response, essentially agreed to support the librarian in her decision.
Okay, I'd like to take a minute and read the letter that's coming.
Mike can speak.
What is it that we are being asked to do?
Well, it's what,
Thank you.
if you read Kathy's letter, I think Kathy wanted this to happen over there in the board, right? That's what I understood.
I think that the select board should be aware of issues that arise in town, that those of us who are involved with the library one way or another might find we are also involved with that. I come from a background of the service industry, and certainly a library is based on good quality, prompt, timely service. And knowing a little bit about town government, the select board ultimately is responsible to ensure that all the departments are operating as they should be. And when a donation, basically of anything, can possibly take over 3 months to resolve, it's far beyond my understanding. I had to provide service for people, and we were expected to return calls within 24 hours, and we were expected to resolve the issue as soon as possible, and that was our focus to do so. It just makes no sense to me that this can travel on for so long. And then perhaps beside the fact that I don't understand the justification, particularly, well, either way, the children's books, we have books in that library that don't have reports, that have popular interest, but perhaps no literary value. We have children's books about politics. There's a wide variety, and this is a donation. This isn't spending taxpayers' dollars. This is an acceptance of a donation from a resident of the town. And I just don't understand the rationale not to accept. And I certainly have no understanding of how anything such as this, these 2 little children's books that have, I don't know how many pages are in them, but to read over them and see if they're appropriate for children should only take a few hours at most. I don't understand it. The select board needs to know when things aren't going according to what I'm sure you would like to see happen within this town.
That's what I was getting at, Kathy. Is this just to inform us, or are you looking for us to either confirm or overturn the decision of the librarian, or what is it? I don't understand what we're being asked.
I'd like an answer to that.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear from Mary Floyd.
First off, when there are issues, we have committees, and they report directly to you people. You should have heard about this a long time ago. There was complaints filed directly to the town manager, and there was communication between the town manager and that committee group, which my understanding is committees are appointed by the select board and they report to you. And this complaint was, they were aware of it, the committee was aware of it, it dragged on for 3.5 months. You have a citizen in town here, they offered a Bible to the library, free donation. They offered these 2 children books, free donation. You haven't even heard about it yet. It's been 3.5 months roughly. That's my concern, because something is broken here. The process should have come to you a long time ago, so you could have been brought into the loop and said, hey, we got, what's going on, this needs to be resolved. You people are responsible to make sure that that happens.
Thank you.
My understanding.
Thank you.
Let me get,
Just in terms of responding to I get the issue, right? We have boards and committees, they meet once a month, right? Sometimes it's hard for them to meet. So there are reasons, I'm not saying it's appropriate, I'm just saying there are reasons. We had a librarian who had a significant health issue with a member of her family, I guess that was it. And so, yeah, I would have liked to have seen it resolved sooner as well, but we're working with committees, we're working with trying to get those committees pulled together on these issues. There were some communication issues in terms of what the whole issue was and all of that.
okay.
So I think that's fairly well laid out in here.
Yep,
Diane Dowd, Chair Trustee of the Board of Library, the Library Board. First off, this letter should not have come to you because nothing has been said. This letter should have come to the Board of Trustees at the library. We have open meetings on the first Thursday of the month. Nobody has contacted me as chair. Nobody has sent anything to the Board of Trustees. No, and Kathy Brown, as a friend, is aware of when we meet. There is information on the library website of when we meet and who the trustees are. Also, the Friends of the Library have a representative at our public meetings, and I, as the chair of the trustees, has been to the Friends meetings. This issue has not been brought up at all. And I understand that a patron did offer to donate 2 children's Christmas books, The Legend of the Candy Cane by Lori Wahlberg and A Legend of the Christmas Cookie by Dandy Daly, to be placed in the children's section of the library. According to the librarian, Mrs. Palangi requested that the library did not choose to add the books. She would like the books back. She also added that these were not the actual copies that she would be donating, as she would return with copies that included a bookplate from her church. The librarian informed her that donations that were not added to the collection would automatically go to the Friends of the Library to be placed in their annual book sale. But in this case, she agreed to return the books to her. As Kathy Brown can attest, the library garage has hundreds of books that have been donated by the generous townspeople of Belgrade and surrounding areas. The librarian, as part of her job, looks at donations for additions to the library collection. All items must meet the selection policy guidelines, which is in the Library Manual, Section 4. The library selection policy in Section 4, the criteria is listed under Section B. That would be how she determines whether something can be added. And this is a standard criteria used in most libraries. There are thousands of children's books that feature the holidays, and new ones are being written every single year. Some of the books feature traditions and culture, and some are written to promote popular culture. Many families have their own favorite holiday books. Personally, when the holiday decorations come out, it's time to reread our favorites. The Polar Express, The Story of Holly and Ivy, and The Littlest Angel. As the librarian evaluated these books, she spoke to several people, including myself. I've worked in a children's library for 22 years, so I'm qualified to assist in the evaluation of these books. The books I looked at are in very good condition. There's nothing particularly special about the illustrations. I did find the text to be heavily religious, and the symbolism of the candy cane representing Jesus is not a new story, but it does not translate well into a picture book. There are non-Christian families that would be upset if their child brought home a book that said the red of the candy cane represents the blood of Jesus Christ. As one parent who looked at the book said, I would be uncomfortable trying to explain this to a young child. The librarian ultimately decided not to accept these books. This is her job, as stated in the selection policy. The trustees are not involved in the collection development. The librarian returned the books as requested by registered mail with an explanation and copies of the selection policy. Returning the books by mail is a standard business practice that establishes a paper trail if an item gets lost. Kathy Brown's letter said, oh, there was no open discussion. Standard practice means that you return the book, and so that there's a trail. The librarian apologized for her delay in getting back to the patron. The family had a family emergency and was off for a period of time, and she did get back to the patron within a month. Look at the paper trail that goes with this. She returned those books within a month. As far as the Bible goes, this was a request maybe to donate a Bible. There was no Bible physically present. The librarian stated that she must serve all members of the community, and collections should reflect the religious information provided by adding access to diverse religious thought without becoming a proponent to any of them. Therefore, if the library added a Bible to its collection, it needs to add sacred texts of other religions as well. Currently, there are no sacred texts in the library. There is a religious section in the library which houses books about history and culture of Christianity, as well as several other religions. The librarian reached out to the Maine State Library, which said at the minimum, the library should have the top 6 religions represented: Christianity, Islam, Judea, Hindu, Buddhism, and the Church of the Latter-day Saints. To fully support these 6 religions, the library would need to purchase 23 books. Christianity texts include more than one version of the Bible, as not all branches of Christianity use the same Bible. The library cannot favor one religion. Getting back to the timing, there's a lot more involved. There's research, and based on research, the Bibles outside of the home or church do not circulate. Most people prefer to have their own Bibles, so they may underline or make note of certain passages. The librarian posted a questionnaire on the library listserv internet site inquiring about the Bible in libraries. Of the 25 libraries that responded, 8 had the Bible. The most recent checked out Bible was 9 years ago. Nobody has requested a Bible at the Belgrade Public Library in the time that our librarian has been there. And however, several versions of the library are available for download through the library cloud service for free. The library is also able to interloan libraries and religious books. The library does have community information that lists local churches that could provide a Bible. The librarian ultimately has been following her job, following all policies and procedures, and should not be condemned for doing so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
My name is Gail Carano, and I'm very new at this. I've never spoken at anything before. I think that this is really getting blown out of proportion, and I have to say that the biggest complaint that I had in the beginning was not knowing politics and things like that. When my friend came to me upset about the denial, the not taking the donation, I said, well, I've been on the Friends of the Belgrade Library for 17 years, and I'll see what I can find out, but I don't know exactly why anything is going on. I said, but I am definitely appalled to know there's not a Bible in our library. And just before I lose the thought, not everyone has access to computers and things like that, because I'm pretty green at all that myself, but I mean, and as far as someone being upset about it, if it's not your style of religion or your book, don't take it off the shelf, just ignore it, like I do a lot of other books. But the thing that my biggest complaint was I didn't know where to go with my complaint. And so I went to the Friends and said, you know, how do I go about this? Do I just go down to the library and talk to Janet? Or is there someone, or is the trustees over Janet? And they said, well, the town manager is over Janet. Oh, okay. So I came down to talk to Dennis, and I explained that our biggest problem at the time was I didn't have an answer, and it had been getting to be week after week. The lack of communication was really my big complaint. Get us an answer, do something. Just then, little to my knowledge, there was a family issue, and I'm sorry about that. My other question was, there are other people that work there. Could they not have just made a phone call to Mary and just said, you know, Janet's out on personal leave or something? And so one thing keeps going to another, but now it seems to be kind of getting kind of personal to everybody, and you know, it's just a lack of communication, people. If there's a reason, like policies, you'd be surprised how many of us that have been around for a long time didn't even know there's policies. You know, I never saw those policies, and I've been around 17 years. But, okay, okay, that's just me. So I guess the problem is that a donation is a donation, and we've spent many years asking for the town to help us and to donate, and I just think that perhaps there could have been a way to just take them and be grateful for them. And the Bible, I know everybody thinks that everyone has access to computers and stuff these days, but I happen to personally know from other committees that I'm on, if someone is down and out, they may be looking for an answer. They may not have access or know how to use a computer. They may want to just go in and look at the book to try to find their answer. I didn't realize how much all of this is involved, but I really think that the lack of communication, there had to be a chain of command somewhere, like it's, you know, sorry that the librarian had problems, but there are other assistants there, just phone call, just something. And I guess I should just be quiet because it's the first time, it'll probably be the last time, but thank you everyone for listening, and I appreciate it, thank you.
Let me ask these people, then we'll get to that. Let me go to her, okay?
Just to be clear, I was at the Friends meeting, you didn't mention this to me.
Okay, we're not gonna do this, okay? Thank you for the answer.
Just to be fair, I've donated tons of books to the library over the years. I've not followed up to see whether or not they landed on the shelf. That was not my goal. I never asked for them to be returned. There was something else here amiss with the particular types of books and what they were leaning towards, and the request that these books be returned, were they not put in the collection. Otherwise, you could have gone to the library book sale in the summertime and picked up the copy of the Bible. It wouldn't have had any of these political undertones or religious undertones, whatever the whole thing is designed to stir up some sort of controversy. But the request was that these be returned if they were not accepted for the collection. And the fact that they felt like they had to offer a reason that they weren't accepted for the collection has taken an extraordinary amount of time and attention from all kinds of people. And the reality is that the library serves everyone in Belgrade. It doesn't serve one religion, it doesn't serve one type of people. Belgrade is a melting pot, and if we're going to represent one, then we have to represent all. And if we can't represent all because our space is limited, then we represent none. However, we give you access to those things. If you want a library to look at while you are laid up in bed, there is interlibrary loan. You do not have to have a computer. You can go in and ask the librarian or anyone else who's working there to get that book for you. They will let you know when it's in, and you can go and get it. So it is available. It just isn't on the shelf.
Thank you. That gentleman got something? Yeah.
Yes,
No?
go ahead. Yeah, Kelly Ryan. I am actually live in the town of Oakland. I am friends with several people who live in Belgrade, including Mary and Gail and John Pelagi, Art Carano, a number of other people. Anyway, let me get to the point. One issue is the timeliness. I was explaining there was corroborating evidence, mitigating the long period of time. So that was explained. I'm trying to listen to it impartially. So, but the other thing is the communication process. Certainly, I think we're all getting educated. Me, for sure, educated on how things become problems, in a community when people don't communicate. And third point is, don't communicate in a timely manner for whatever the reason. And the third thing is, I'm just asking a question. Does this have to be settled tonight, or can it be tabled for a, where all the concerned parties could meet together and, in a timely manner, very soon, and work it out? Communicate. I'm asking, I'm just asking.
I think that's something we might decide before we're done here. The guy, Jason was behind you, he had his hand
Well,
up.
my name is Jason Carey, and I don't, unless I need to stand up, I think I'll choose to be seated.
This other guy.
So, there may be books of fine art, and there may be books of divine, maybe there aren't books of divine inspiration, but maybe how does fine art get anywhere? And there may be books of political theory, maybe there are books of philosophy, maybe there's some Nietzsche in there, some J.T. Fraser, maybe there's some existentialism in there, which I'm totally offended by. I wouldn't ever want to send my child to a library that had that kind of nonsense on its shelves. I mean, that's not really how I feel, but I think I just try to make my point that I go to the library to select things that I choose to read. And if I had a donation to make to the library and it was refused because of its content of good news, I would also be disappointed.
Thank you.
So that's my personal feedback on that.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is the Reverend Jacob Fless. I'm a resident of Gardner, 46 Water Street, and serving as pastor at Old South Church. I went this morning to the Gardner Library and spoke with Ann Davis, the librarian there. Ann recently won the Librarian of the Year, I believe, for the whole state of Maine. In surveying the books downstairs, there are shelves of religious literature and probably, at least in Gardner, 8 copies of various translations of the Bible. Then going upstairs, there's like shelves that's on a rack, holiday books, and there's predominantly Christian Christmas stories, but there's also Islamic stories, and there's stories representing Judaism for children. Before I say anything else, having attended many council meetings in Gardner, served on committees, my wife is for 12 years the chair of the Gardner School, RSU 11, I know the difficulty of communication and would like to commend you all at being present and learning about that process. And also condolences to the librarian with family emergencies. I think a little grace and mercy goes a long way. Ann told me, Ann Davis, if you would like her to come and speak to this, she would be happy to come in and speak. And one of the points she made to me is the library is a free building encompassing a broad variety of things in terms of any topic, various points of view. So I'd like to encourage the acceptance of the children's books. Ann told me that many libraries, if they have the money, if a binding is insufficient, they like the book, they can rebind it. But in other cases, when there's not the money to do that, because the quality, she said, the quality of books today is not of yesterday. The books are just recycled or done away with. The final point I'd like to make is just in terms of broadening traditions. I personally would like to donate to the Belgrade Library a copy of the Koran as a gesture of indicating, just a library is there for informational purposes. And the best way to find out information is to read the primary texts. As far as children's stories, I read the story about the candy canes, and I thought, well, I've never heard that. It's a little far-fetched. I never heard that one.
Got the red stripes representing the blood, but on the other hand, they're concrete lessons for children to understand. And if a family wishes to read that to their children, that's their ability to do so. So anyway, thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike's gonna,
Yeah, I wonder if, Mrs. Blangy, if we could hear from you as a donor. Have you got comments on this?
I listened to a few of these different viewpoints, and one thing I was seeing was things didn't happen quite in the order that whoever that letter was from. But I really just wanted to donate those books. I just didn't think much about it. I said, I just want to donate those books. I'd love to be able to have, bring children in there and they just go pick off the shelf what they might like, and they might like to read those books. I think it would bring out a side that the library doesn't have. It would bring out a, kind of round it out a little better than just reading other tales and whatnot. So that was my intention. They're beautiful stories. Everything about them to me seemed fine. I didn't think twice about dropping those off. My afterthought was the Bible. There were two issues here. I never have heard back officially about the Bible, but the books were returned. The Bible, if you must, you do have to do what you must legally to provide everybody's religion, that's fine with me. I hadn't thought that far. I only thought the religion I was in, of course. The Bible, the version, I'm not adverse to any of them. I am totally surprised by the lack of, I still haven't heard back on some issues that we've had, and I'm surprised that well, if it could come up, I don't know if this is the time to do it, but the trustee, Diane had said that the trustees didn't know anything about this. I thought that you had said that you had mentioned it to the trustees.
Well, there was an email chain too. I talked to Diane.
Yeah, but in between times, we had not met.
Right, but they hadn't met, is the point. She's talking about the group, right, Diane?
The group of trustees, yes. The group of trustees, the board.
The board of trustees. When have they met since September? Just curious, I'm just curious because
The book, November, we meet the first Thursday of the month. So,
there's been a couple Thursdays anyway.
Right.
November and December.
November one, right? I didn't hear anything about any of this till after the children's book was returned. You're right, we did meet in November, but we are in the middle of budget season. And there are many pressing issues during budget season. We're a volunteer board. I think it might have gotten tabled at that point. It was discussed at our December 6th meeting.
So it was,
Yes.
because I haven't heard anything back from that either, but I guess I just, it leaves me as someone, I was just totally shocked at the service I got and the response I got. Love to see the books, if we could, however we want to handle it, I'd love to see the books in the library. We need to talk about that another time, that's fine with me too. But I just think this whole issue should, and if there's another thing that we should clear up is how do you go about, what is the standard SOP for if you wanted to donate something and it was rejected? Just what is the SOP, standard operating procedure for this in the future? Because we were floundering as to what direction to go in.
I think it's the business of the library, is it not?
that'd probably be the business of the library for the books and stuff like that.
And if it wasn't met with, what's the next step?
I'm sure we have a library charter.
Probably with us, but, yeah.
Yeah, if the book isn't put on the shelf, then it goes to support the library when it goes to a book sale. There's not generally a
Hang on.
chain of command as far as the book goes. None have stirred up this level of controversy, and I'm surprised really.
This is getting a little bit out of
It's
control
totally
here, but
getting blown
I'm gonna
out of
take a couple
proportion.
more questions here and then,
I just wanted to clarify, there's
Yep.
quite a difference between the library in Gardner and the public library in Gardner and our library. There are 3 floors in that library. If we were to get books, all of the books of the different religions, essentially the Bible of each of the religions, it would take up a lot of space, which we really don't have.
Thank you. Ernie?
My point is that, like you say, we have a small library, and there are many libraries of great size, including the Maine State Library. And let's say I was doing research on ancient Aztec temples or something like that, you could reason our library might not have a lot of material on that topic. So but I could get that kind of information from the state library through interlibrary loan, which is sort of like a huge extension of the shelves of the Belgrade Town Library, which exists for every library in the state of Maine, or I suppose people could even do it individually if they wish, not even through a library. And so, because of that, if one wanted to do research or read on any religion or any topic, not specifically religion, but in this case we're talking about religion, it's available to them through the extended reach, if you will, of the shelves of the Maine State Library. And as a board, we have committees, and largely these committees are delegated to solve these issues, day-to-day issues, as a board and as a staff. I think in this particular case, the librarian handled it to the best of her ability in the time she could, considering her family illness problem that she had. It wasn't considered a life or death issue, whether, if somebody was, sometimes we have issues that arise that come to Dennis's attention where somebody's run out of oil and their pipes are about to freeze, and that's something we really have to get snapped to, because it's a real emergency. This particular issue wasn't necessarily a real emergency from a life or death perspective. And in the library board's case, I think the librarian handled it, and when it became the standards that she used became an issue for the people involved, then it became Dennis's issue, and then it became the library board's issue. There are policies that the library adheres to. They were articulated in this case, and it seems to me that's what these committees exist for, to solve these problems in their day-to-day. I mean, take a larger issue. If the planning board, somebody wants to put up, like take the dollar store that was here in town, somebody proposed that, went to the planning board, followed procedure, went to the appeals board, followed procedure, was denied. If that denial didn't sit well with the people that were involved, then it comes to this board and we deal with it. I think in this particular case, it was handled by the librarian, it was handled by town manager, it was handled through all the right channels, and that's my take on it from this board's perspective, as far as I can tell.
I guess a couple more. We're gonna do something on this. We could stay here all night, I think. Go ahead, Howard.
I'd like to understand that in the foreseeable future, the library will not be adding what would be the equivalent of the books that were mentioned here as being an equal expression of multiple religions in the area because of space limitations. So no other books of any kind are going to be added because the library is out of space?
You'll have to ask the library.
That's a very good question. But I do think
I would expect, as part of public record at this meeting, and the statement made that the justification, one of the justifications for not accepting these books was space limitation. That's an indication that there is not room in the library for adding the equivalent of those books from any other topic.
Does somebody want to answer that?
Could I address it?
I'm looking for an answer. A yes or no,
You
I
can
think.
have one volume that's a compilation or a number of religions, so that if you wanna learn something about a religion, and you don't know a lot about it, there would be material there, I assume, but there would be material that would give you information about the religion. Bible, the holy book that every religion has could be volumes, could be huge, and there are so many religions. And one of the problems is that if you have books in there about Christianity or about Church of the Latter-day Saints, and you don't have books about the other religions, there would be people that would come down hard on the library.
Okay, I guess, how would you answer, okay, Diane, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, it is not only, in the case of the religious books and the text, it's not only the space provided for them, it's also the cost to provide them. And you're talking, you know, we would have to spend some of the budget money to provide these books. Is that what you're referring to?
Well, then I guess I would ask the question whether you're gonna spend money to buy other books.
We would. We have a book budget.
Then you're discriminating against.
Not
Okay,
necessarily.
when,
Okay.
yeah,
Well, no, I'm asking that question.
no, I know, I think,
It's
I'd like,
critical if you don't identify.
the answer, I mean, I think he's asking for an answer about the Bible, so if I'm correct. Am I correct?
Or Howard, what you're asking is, because they've said no to the Bible and the 23 books that they would have to provide in order to encompass all of a basic understanding of each religion, 23 books. So what you're saying is that can they, if the 23 is what came out of Maine State statute in order to, or Maine State Library, and if you were to do
6 or 7
I don't think
religions.
we're gonna solve this problem
then it would
tonight.
take 23
No.
books. So what you're saying is if they're saying no to the Bible, are they saying no to any other books? Is that what you're asking?
Well, if the rationale is
There
because
is no
there isn't
answer.
a space for them.
No, there's not space for 23 books.
We're not, hang on, we're not gonna get into this debate.
That's.
Mary's, go ahead, you
I
just,
think that's a very fair question. I would like to hear the answer to that.
okay,
That's all.
we will in a minute. If we can, we may not be able to get you an answer tonight. I don't think, this is gonna, I don't see this stopping tonight. There's more that's gotta be learned out of this. I mean, I never thought this was gonna take this long for 3 books, to be honest with you. But I'm gonna ask Kathy, she's had her hand up and she's been biting at the
I
bit.
just wanted to make a distinction between someone who comes in with books that they have enjoyed and that they would like to donate directly to the library, and those of us who cull our book collection, bring the box into the library because we want to just get rid of them and it's going to a good place. That's absolutely a distinction. Books I bring to the book sale are books I no longer need to have no personal attachment to. When somebody picks out books that they have particularly loved and brought in so that the library could share them with other people in the community, that's a whole different rationale to donations. That's just my quick distinction.
I'm gonna go with Denny this time.
Well, I think there's a donation policy, and I think the donation policy addresses that question, but what I wanted to get to was make it clear what the timeline was. I did not include my phone calls in here, which I've had a few with Mary and 1 or 2 with, she's still with it, yeah. But I did include all of the emails, which give you a specific timeline in terms of the involvement of the parties. And it started on October 16th, when I sent a letter back, an email back to Mary Ann, here's my name. Gail. And saying 1 or 2 days after we had the conversation, which I believe was on a Thursday or Friday afternoon, and I followed up on Tuesday, October 16th, saying I did have a discussion.
There's no
And then
decision
it
to
goes
be
on
made.
from there all the way through November
Not by
7th.
us.
And I contacted Diane, I believe was the initial, and then on through. So Yes, it took a long time, but there is a timeline there, and I do have my phone calls. If people want to see those.
I don't think we need to do that, but
Can I call, can we move
just,
this?
yeah, we're gonna, yes.
Oh, yeah,
in fact,
yeah.
Can I ask a question?
You can ask a question.
Just to reiterate Michael's question from earlier, what are we being asked to move here? I don't,
Pertinent question, Ernie, pertinent question.
yeah, I mean,
The first question hasn't been answered yet.
are we being asked to overrule the library? Are we being asked to, I don't know, I don't think, I don't. help me.
I
Denny,
think
go ahead.
Kathy articulated the point earlier and in her letter. She felt that there's a communication failure in terms of timeliness and response and all of that.
That's been
And
discussed.
that she wanted to make sure that the board heard that.
Okay.
The reason why this hasn't gotten to the
Okay,
board
so
sooner
we're,
was because I didn't think it was right yet, because I was trying to get all of the information I could to bring to the board.
okay.
We hear the concern.
So I don't.
The other thing is that I would like, Mary Pelagian, that, I really do think it should be reconsidered. And if the board, I see nothing in your bylaws that they should be refused. So, yeah, there's three things, I guess. It's a lot of questions to vote on, but.
I really think we need to, it needs to be some more time spent with this group, to work together or something.
Well, what,
I don't think we're in the position to,
But you will need the selectmen, it is, you have bylaws on the selectmen here.
we do,
And so this is how come you come into it too.
we
They may
do.
be old, it's your library that was still in the Center for All Seasons, so they're old, but they're still what you represent.
I understand that.
That's the library policy, right? Not ours.
In my simple mind, it makes sense for me for the donor to go before the trustees.
Yes.
And talk to the
Yes.
trustees about what they want to give. If the answer is not satisfactory from the trustees, then you guys make a decision on it.
Go
That
Tom.
seems to me to be a logical way to do it. But then it's just me.
No, but I think it's a good suggestion. It's a very good suggestion. And we might see what comes out of that. It might be worth seeing what comes out of that.
We didn't know the steps to take.
Well, I'm not sure I knew which steps to take either. Because as I said, I didn't expect it to be a 45-minute discussion on 3 books, you know. I really didn't know what the problem was. I've read this and juggled back and forth several times about what are we doing? What are we gonna do?
If we went to the trustees and took this before the trustees, would you be there too? I think you have to hear what goes on as well, because there are your rules are in here too.
But we have to go by what the trustees tell us.
But it's
Please.
an open meeting.
Yeah, it's an open meeting. We could be there.
You could be there, yeah.
All right, let's kinda,
wind it down, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, the Board of Trustees has made a decision. They've backed up their decision. They've gone above and beyond what needs to be done. There's no wiggle room here, as far as I can see. It doesn't matter if it's this particular one or if it's the Koran. Unless we are putting the space there, but if you want those books out where children can access them, most churches, you want to put a church placard in there, provide them to the children of your church. Put them out there so that they are available to the children, but they don't have to be available in the public library because they're not representative of all things.
Ernie, you want?
Every library.
1 minute.
I'm guessing.
Hang on.
I would imagine it has to be a certainty that every library has its procedures for accepting donations. I mean, the Gardner Library, the State Library. I mean, I can't walk into the State Library with Uncle John's Bible or Uncle Harry's Koran and expect my 100-year-old family Bible or my 10-day-old Bible that I just bought and expect them to take it and put it on their shelf. I mean, unless it's their policy to do so. And in this case, and in every library's case, there's a policy for how they procure the books that exist on their shelves. And without that policy, it wouldn't be so much a library as it would be a book depository. And so this is why these exist. I know the current procedures policies of the library are a little outdated, but they're being updated, and they're about to be set forth, to this board to okay them going forward, but they do get updated from time to time, but they haven't changed very much, and that's just my sense of this.
Yeah.
I think there needs to be a cooling off time, and then hopefully an opportunity for the donor and the library trustees to have a conversation and to come to a reasonable decision. And if you're unable to do that, then I suppose you involve the select board. But one is operational, and that is the day-to-day functioning of the library, which belongs to the librarian and the library trustees, I would assume. Most entities work that way. I'd like to see people having conversations and communications about these various issues that come before you. I may have a variety of religious books that I wish to donate, and I might want to find out how to do that. So I just really think that one of the things that's important is to take a step back, take a nice deep breath, and have a little bit of a cooling off period before you try to resume conversations. If that's impossible, then it's impossible. But you have to accept the responsibility for not being able to have those conversations.
Thank you.
Well said.
Thank you very much.
Well said.
Thank you. I think we're gonna, just like you said, let this cool off. Board of Trustees need to meet and see what we can do with that. If you guys can't come up with an answer, then you're gonna have to come back to us. But at least it's gone through the chain of command. Thank you very much. Appreciate all your comments. Thank you. We're gonna move on to the next one. Denny, maybe you wanna jump on that one? Raise the floor.
Raise the floor.
Thank you, Mary.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mary, for your generosity.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good night. Merry Christmas to you guys, if I don't see you.
Merry Christmas. Thanks for coming.
Oh, I'm saying Merry Christmas.
Dealing with Kwanzaa, happy Hanukkah.
All right, let's move right on to this one.
Okay,
Thank you all.
I'm bringing this particular issue to your attention. Let me just be sure here. Okay, a while back, I became aware of an initiative that was being worked on in Fayette. And it's called Raise the Floor. Now, that initiative has to do with school funding. School funding particularly oriented to minimum receiver towns such as Fayette, Belgrade, other towns who have very high property values, but their demographics don't necessarily reflect the kind of property value. So they're being unduly burdened, so to speak, as it was relayed to me, and I agree that unduly burdened by the fact that they have high property, lots of lake frontage, maybe one big industry or whatever, that pushes their valuation up to a point that in the EPS formula, they get minimum or zero money. Right now, the floor, so to speak, is 0 to 5% based on a number of factors, including the number of special education students and all of that. So, and I don't know all the details, you probably don't know about it than I do, but nonetheless, I'm pointing to Howard. So nonetheless, they brought this initiative to me and said, geez, what do you think about this? And this essentially would raise the floor, the minimum that minimum receivers towns could receive to 15% of the cost of educating a single student. And they would do that by changing the EPS formula. And this is a collaboration amongst a number of towns now that have already heard about it. So I'm raising it here. But they would do it by changing the EPS formula to essentially provide that 15% per student to minimum receiver towns. Now, this is an ongoing discussion. I've been, as the legislator for this district, I've been asked to sponsor this initiative, which I've agreed to do. So there's a meeting Friday that I asked Howard to go to because I can't make it. But, there's a meeting Friday at Freddie Flaherty, which is the lawyers for the organization that's pushing this. I provided this information to you to look quickly at. What it would probably require is a $32 million appropriation from the general fund, not to be pushed at the EPS funding for, the state funding for EPS, but just a general appropriation that would kind of bring some parity in funding minimum receiver towns. In 2012, the 126th legislature pushed forward an initiative to evaluate the EPS formula for fairness. It came back, the evaluation came back, and it said this was probably one of the most fair formulas you can have, with the exception, minimum receiver towns have to be addressed. So that's what this is trying to do. So there's a campaign going forward with it and all of that. We're going to learn more about it. I'm going to push it forward as an initiative, a legislative initiative. The thing that they're asking for in this is funding at $5 per student in our town to help support the collaborative, and that's the issue I put forward to you. Is there any consideration that the board might have in providing that? I'm not asking on my behalf, I'm asking as you saw in the email.
How many students do we have?
Roughly 460, I believe.
I was thinking 380.
Is it 380? I thought it was over
386.
I think you're closer to right.
Okay.
Last time I looked.
460?
My information is at least a year old.
Yeah, mine is
386.
386?
I said 386. He said
Just over 400.
Okay, right.
408.
Let's just say 400.
It's like 4.
This is data that they pulled from.
Okay.
should take 400.
2,000.
$2,000.
Yeah,
$2,000.
that's pretty, yeah.
2 to 2,500.
Yeah.
Let me think about that.
Yep, Mike.
If this goes through, what will this do for Belgrade?
That's my question.
What it would do for Belgrade, as I understand, and I think there's a calculation here, we provided probably up to, depending on what the 15% rate, but up to 800, was it 862,000 or whatever?
So we need to see that.
I don't have all of it.
I think it's worth looking into.
But it's a fair amount of money, but that's if it were to pass and go through, it's a fair amount of money.
So where does that money come from?
It would come.
And how do we end up paying for it still on the other side?
Well, if the legislation were to pass, the legislation essentially has, I don't have the legislation, I thought I passed that on in a email several, week or 2 or 3 weeks ago.
I don't remember seeing it.
But there is attached legislation to that email. But the legislation would essentially ask for a general fund appropriation of some millions of dollars. That general fund appropriation would go toward this particular bill. It would not add to or take away from any of the receiver towns. It would just add to $32 million to the budget to fund this portion of that EPS bill. Now, there are people that are going to oppose it because they'll say, hey, you should put the 32 million right into general education. But this has been to address a disparity in the EPS formula that particularly hits small towns with high valuation and with a demographic that on its own couldn't support that. So it overly burdens these towns and those town taxpayers.
I think it ought to be looked into. You know, anything to save some money, we need to be looking at.
Yeah, my point exactly. I mean, if we're, quite often we always say, well, gee, you know, we wish we could figure out a way to.
This is a way.
And this potentially is a way.
Right.
If you remember back in the discussion about all of this, I said when Gary and I were attending the committee that would relook at the way we funded certain things, the formula, I said we should be looking at demographics, we should be looking at median pay, all of these issues. This is intended to take those things into account. And the analysis that was done tried to take those into account. Now, I haven't had a complete briefing on this. I've only read what I've read. There's a complete briefing, and you're more than welcome to attend. All you had to do was reply to that email I forwarded. But I asked Howard to attend, because he has a fair amount of knowledge in this area, and he'd be able to bring that back. I will get briefed on it as the primary sponsor, or the lead sponsor, but nonetheless, that's what it's done.
Where'd you get the 2,000 from?
Well, that's a good question, and I thought that the contingency fund is something that would allow the board to expend out of that, but then again, that's something.
One question, should this pass, would it adversely affect other towns, some other towns, like a Cape Elizabeth or or a town?
No,
Like
in fact, there's a question about whether or not it would help out the largest, like towns that really are hurting.
Yeah.
And the intent is to help out these smaller, more highly valued towns. Belgrade has the third highest valuation, state valuation, in Kennebec County, behind Winthrop.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And Waterville and Augusta are the only two towns up ahead of us on our valuation.
Sure. Yeah. Anyway.
Howard?
I don't mean to correct what Denny said, but it's not going to change EPS. It's going to be, EPS is going to be left alone, so that's not going to, so that's answering your question whether it's going to adversely affect any other towns. It's not.
There's going to be some additional.
The amount of money that RSU 18 receives in the name of Belgrade, which reduces our contribution, is what EPS does, and they do it by district and by town.
And ours is very small.
I don't have that.
Ours is zero.
Yes. Right. Well, yeah, we
had
ended up with like 120,000 one year recently.
That was not EPS. That was the money that came in after. That wasn't.
Yeah.
So the EPS wall would change. There's two sections of the wall that we would address.
There are a lot more Belgrades than there are Cape Elizabeths.
Oh, sure, I know that. I just didn't want to.
Even if it does help out Cape Elizabeth a little bit.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot more Belgrades that get helped out.
I don't think we're.
So you need this money before you can even go to the meeting?
No. I was just asking whether or not you'd be willing to.
I think you ought to look into it, see what it is.
Sure.
Get the information
Yep.
and look it over.
Yeah.
I'll be happy to come back with whatever information.
I guess, I don't know, are you looking for a motion that we proceed with the $2,000 or?
You don't have to do that right now.
I don't even think we gotta, we just,
I wanted to raise the issue to you, let you know what they were looking for.
it's informational.
And then,
You think they'll be pushing for some sort of commitment at this meeting? You're going to be on this, going to put him on the
no,
spot?
I've already attended one meeting with just me there with the attorneys for the group that's putting this forward. And that was very limited in terms of, they were looking at what I was interested in doing and all of that. So it wasn't the kind of full exposure to the information that Howard was doing. And the number of towns. I know Rome is interested in this. They're moving, I believe Andy will, I hope he's going to be there. I sent the information to him and other towns that I sent it on to.
Looks like you got the support of the board anyway, so.
Right, and the other
We're
thing
not
is
gonna
I
take a
passed it
vote
on
on
to
it, we don't need
Carl.
to, it's an informational thing.
But I would not make any commitment on the behalf
Right.
of Belgrade, but I would indicate an interest.
Yes.
And a willingness to look at the information more thoroughly.
Yes.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for willing to go there.
Yes.
All right, the next thing on the agenda is C, changing the meeting date from January 1st to the.
Do you want to go to the following Wednesday, next Wednesday like we did earlier this month?
Right.
I thought we had
Rather than
already
a Tuesday
agreed on that.
meeting, it's a Wednesday meeting.
I thought we already had.
Well, we did it for one, I didn't.
I have it in my calendar for.
I think we talked about it, but I don't know if we.
But I'm in favor of it.
Did we decide on it?
I thought we did. But
All
okay.
right, good, we already decided.
Well, that's why.
That's the
Thank
day,
you.
that's the day after New Year's, right,
Yeah.
okay, so.
Given is the difference between going to the second and going to the next week critical relative to whether, getting some of the final financial reports in?
I'm not sure.
Well, go along with this will be, what I'd like to do
Goodbye,
at this
and
next meeting in
Thank you.
January is look at the articles that you looked over with, because we'll have information on some of those, not on the first articles, but the whole. But look at some of those articles, and then set a date at the next meeting so that we can push out the public hearing notice. We need 7 days notice to a public hearing for sometime in mid-January to finalize the budget.
Did we talk about a budget meeting around the 8th or something like that, or was that? just?
Oh, I don't remember us talking about the.
Oh, there
Well,
was
we talked about,
hypothetical, I guess, because we were trying to see when we
yeah,
had
we
the
talked
figures.
about not having it on, going on the 8th instead of,
Or in, I know we talked about not having it in December.
I won't be here the 3rd for sure. That's a date, no, it's the 2nd.
We're talking about the second.
Okay.
We're talking about the
2nd I will be. I won't be here the 8th.
Okay.
We can talk about when the
Yeah.
budget finalization, so we get the budget.
This is fine, that date's fine then.
Do we need to make a motion or something, or do we just?
We already did, we must have, if it's in the calendars, we must have done it.
Yeah, I think we did.
on my calendar. Did you make it that one when I wasn't here?
Yeah, we
We
did a lot of
Maybe.
things.
Did you have it in yours?
I have it in mine, yeah.
But we can make, let's do it again, make it all legal.
We did a lot of things.
Anybody wanna make a
I'll move that we meet on the 2nd.
All right. Moved, second?
Second.
Okay, been moved and second. No more discussion? I don't see any. All hands up. How'd you like that one real quick?
Get your hand up there.
That's right. All right, let's get right to the warrant, and if, Melanie, you wanna take it? You're right there.
All right, warrant number 152, the warrant total amount is $589,277.01.
I will second that.
Questions?
Yep, got any questions?
I do.
Go, imagine that.
You know I do.
Go ahead.
I had to use my yellow marker.
There we go.
On page 2, item 18189, Jones Land Use Enforcement, what is that?
Page 2?
Jones Land Use
Right in the
Enforcement.
middle.
It's
right?
under the lawyer's field.
Oh, that's,
That's
hold on,
the-
let me,
It's under legal stuff, right?
Yeah.
okay, so it's Jones, right? Is that what you're reading?
Yep.
Yep, Jones
Jones.
Land.
Yes, there is a current ongoing enforcement action against an owner of a piece of property on Sandy Cove.
So it
And
should be Jones, comma, Land Use Enforcement.
Maybe, I
Okay,
didn't.
all right,
Okay,
I get the point.
This is never grammatically correct.
Well, it would have put up my question.
There's some more somewhere.
Page 3,
the junkyard,
oh, you want to go back?
you just asked.
No. Page 3, Central Main Area on Aging.
Which,
Was that a warrant, that was a,
That was a warrant item.
that was a, okay,
Yep,
thank you. Oh, that was
yeah, one of those petitions.
Spectrum Generations, wasn't it?
Something like that.
I think that's all I had.
No.
Anybody else got any questions on it?
Do we even get into
I
that?
have one.
Go ahead.
No, I do have more.
Your salary's not here. It doesn't count.
No.
He's got a mistake.
There's a warrant item here that pays $586 to repair the sign. I looked into the contract for the sign. I was under the impression it was under warranty. I didn't realize this question had come in until I was reviewing the warrant. I am going to go back to Neocraft and say, why did you bill us? I think the warranty is still in effect on the sign and its parts. And I'm going to try to recover that.
Thank you.
Thank you. I do have. unless
I
you-
have a curious question.
Yep.
And that is, how much has Brightside Marina cost us so far?
I haven't got the total, but with that 4,000, it's probably up to 17.
Okay. Curious, just curious.
Now, some of that,
We've been warned for
enforcement
now.
action, to the extent that we've taken things so far, the stuff that's dealing with the appeals board and the defense of the appeals board, that's ongoing, and the district, the court, the law court, the spirit court. We can't recover that, but any expenses related to the enforcement action will be able to recover.
Okay.
Mike?
How far into the future do we have to go before we've paid off all of the penalties for Anthony missing classes? I see
Well,
two of them.
That's a question I would like to ask other people taking those classes, and I didn't realize these were. We'll try to resolve that. I think
Yes.
these should be the last ones.
Okay, well, it's
I'll
it's
take
too
a
bad.
couple.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Someone
saying.
put the thousands,
Too
right?
bad couldn't
We're gonna keep
substitute it.
getting
Yeah.
penalized for it, that's just
You send a substitute.
bad business.
Yeah, send a
on their part.
substitute.
Well,
Send Kathy, she like to go.
Oh, that's right. I like to
it
go to
was kind of
school.
a sudden departure, and people had already planned it.
Okay, That's
Good.
Anything else?
I'd be done.
Seeing no more questions, I would entertain a vote. All in favor? 5, thank you. Town manager update.
I'll be quick with this, because I know you don't like to hear me.
We love it.
Oh, no, we don't.
I love it.
Oh, okay, you can sit there and listen to them.
There are 5 people that did not pay their taxes, but the tax due date will be going to leave. Just to let you know that. I think some of those will work out over time, but that's just where we're at right now. Report dedication, I passed, without discussing it too deeply, I passed out a recommendation. I believe everyone has accepted the recommendation for the report dedication. For the annual report dedication.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
We're gonna talk about memorials?
Memorials, I provided you with a list of folks that passed away. Generally, memorials are given, they can be given to whoever you deem appropriate. Generally, they're given to folks that have had some interaction with the town, being on committees and et cetera, but that doesn't mean that's an absolute. So if you get your recommendations to me, I'll contact the individuals, relatives, to see if they would help provide input.
Thank you.
Now, should we hold off on that until we get closer to the end of the year so that we don't miss people?
We'll make sure you don't miss anyone.
December.
Yeah, we'll make sure you don't miss it.
So, you know, if you don't die by November, you're out.
They're a holdover.
The other is the Spirit of America awards are out. I will probably be pushing that, probably put a sign up somewhere in the first week of February. They'll have them available right now. They'll notice that on the website and everything, but on the sign out here, I won't put it up until like 1st of February.
What about, that's one of those things that for some reason just popped into my head, talking about the newsletter with the communications committee. Could we put a Spirit of America nomination form in the newsletter?
It would be too late. Well, yeah, we could. I guess if we get it out in January, yes, that would be, with a notice that it had to be in by certain.
Yeah, but that would give.
We'll put it up on the web
folks
too.
another chance to.
Okay.
Okay, I would like to entertain, well, I'd like to propose a suggestion that board members, if you don't mind, kind of get together for a picture so we can put it in the annual report. This is an issue that I've posed many times in the past, with relatively little success.
What happened in the past, if I can preface this, was it was like a surprise photo, like, hey, hello everybody, we're gonna take this picture.
That's what I
and
did.
then it ended up in, and we were like, what? and I'm pretty sure it was Bill Pulsifer with a little tiny Kodak, and he was like.
So if you would, we could take individual pictures or we could take a group picture. I've had several comments at the communications committee, it would be nice to have our elected representatives.
We would like glamour shots.
Put them on.
Do you want, you know,
So
Alex
they
would
can put
volunteer
that
to do that if you want Alex to do it.
I think we should do a human pyramid with Ricky on top.
Well,
with my rocket ship.
Burden you folks with Ricky's,
Yeah. Never mind. Let's go. You made your point, and let's move on.
no, there's the dam committee submitted a letter to DEP that met the requirements of DEP in order to fix the dam. So I just wanted to raise that. So DEP should be happy with the fact that they've agreed to do the analysis and all that. But I am putting a bill in to fix it.
And the money.
So the other thing is the road committee. At the last road committee meeting, the last road committee meeting, a couple topics were brought up that I think at least you should be aware of in terms of long-range thinking. The question of salt priority roads, given the fact that we have salt well contamination. Number one, should we continue and all that? That's just we're discussing that, and I thought you should be knowing that we are. The other issue is longer term, perhaps. Ricky may have more knowledge about this than I, but Warren Brothers were the only people to bid on the last couple snow plowing contracts, or 3 years ago. What happens when they don't bid, and perhaps we don't bid anyway? Should we plan for that now or not? I'm working with the road committee to discuss that. Love to have your input. But that's one of those topics that, you can't wait until the third year of the contract to say, oh, well, we gotta figure this out.
Right.
Or when you don't get any bids. I had to call the Warren Brothers up at the last day, in fact, we had to extend it to allow them to submit the bid.
Do you recall the one we had several bids on it? And Bruce and I and somebody else went around.
You went around and looked at the trucks.
We went and looked at a lot of equipment and,
No, you just can't accept every even if they did.
there was one truck with no wheels on it, but that was.
No.
What it is. No, I'm serious.
Well, I think we
That's
kinda-
what he used.
We've sort of been through this a little bit when Bellavance took it over, and it wasn't up to snuff, from what I remember, and then, you know, I heard that we sort of rushed back to Horn and said, gee, you know, would you come back to do it? And they said, no, we sold our stuff, we don't wanna do it now. You know,
The
and then-
history is, I don't know.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just that there's times when.
The issue here is one where it's long-term thinking and planning, and what do we wanna do, how do we wanna do it?
Sure.
There's all kinds of potential alternatives, some of which are just not doable for them.
Sure.
Something you ought to be working on.
Yeah,
Thank you
just
for
wanted to
planning
know that.
ahead.
And
Well
the
done,
only
sir.
other thing I want you to know is that I had a death in the family. I'll be out Thursday and Friday, traveling to PA to attend a funeral. So. just
Sorry to
wanted
hear
know.
that, Denny.
So I won't be available Thursday and Friday. I'll be available by phone. If there's an emergency that comes up or something, staff will know how to contact me. So, and email, and I can do all of that. So I just won't be here.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
Be in for the half day on Monday, right?
I will be in for Monday. Yes, I will.
For a half day.
Half day.
No, I'll probably be here all day, catching up for Thursday and
That's a
Friday.
joke, but,
Well,
all right, we're on to other. Yep,
Just a question. When the board authorizes the town manager, to put out a letter on our behalf, we know generally what the letter's gonna say, but the practice used to be that there would be a copy of the letter put in the select board box just to look at. And the only reason I'm asking is I had someone ask me, had I seen a particular letter, and they weren't sure they cared for the tone of the letter, and I was like, no, I didn't actually see, it was about, you, whether or not you could do town manager and be a representative. So-
That letter came before the board.
Yeah.
Right, no, right, so that letter came
Before
before
I
the
even
board, but
set
then
it
there was
up.
a response, and they were sort of like the response,
No.
they felt,
The response, I made sure that the board had the response before I sent it.
yeah, you did.
Yeah.
I don't think he was here that,
without.
I think he was out that meeting.
I was like, boy, I haven't been out very many
No, I
meetings.
made sure that the board had.
Well,
Yeah.
so I did say that I hadn't seen it, so in that case, I mean, just pop a copy into the box.
I'll do that, sure.
And just that way, we all know
I thought we
what's
got an
going
email
out
of it
there.
too.
Yeah,
You
in fact,
emailed it.
believe you
Yeah.
did.
It was emailed.
I believe you got emails, because I wanted to make sure that before, and I asked whether or not, in fact, you signed it, I think, for the board, right?
Well,
Yes,
they did
you
say
I
the
may
letter, they did say the letter came from Ricky.
Yes.
Oh,
But
good.
it would have been if it was emailed, remember we had that big glitch of time there where stuff, we
That
weren't
may be,
getting.
but I did my best on that particular issue to stay aloof.
Yeah, no, and I'm not saying,
No, I'm
I'm
not saying
not
you are. I'm
saying
just saying I did my
at
best.
any point that you're not, I'm just saying that in the past, that's been the practice, and I think it's a good practice to
That's exactly
continue.
right. I totally
Just so
agree.
we all know what's going out of the town office, that we're somehow
I-
gonna be.
If you ask me to sign, send a letter on your behalf, you get copies of it before it goes out.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Seeing none, we're gonna have to go into executive session for a few minutes, so
Need to go.
Yep.
I need to go my own executive session.
go ahead. Thank you guys very much. I would